On Wednesday, the House passed an $8.3 billion emergency funding bill to fight the coronavirus. More cases and more deaths are being confirmed. Washington has been the hardest hit state in the country. Vice President Mike Pence tweeted earlier that he will be traveling to Washington to meet with Governor Jay Inslee tomorrow, and that, quote, "We are here for every American and will continue to work with state and local leaders as we protect their health and well-being." For more, I'm joined by Zeke Miller at the White House and Natalie Andrews on Capitol Hill. Zeke is a CBSN political contributor and White House reporter for the Associated Press, and Natalie covers Congress for the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to you both. Natalie, let's start with you. Tell us what's in this funding package.
So it's $8.3 billion and created a lot of buckets. So members were wanting things such as research and development for a vaccine. They got $3 billion for that. There's money that will go to, nearly $1 billion will go for supplies to health centers. There's been a lot of conversation about whether or not health centers have enough supplies to handle getting more patients with coronavirus and whether or not health officials themselves can be protected. So that's part of that. This is a sweeping package that members hope will go out to districts and areas that are seeing the virus and help them, and also for research to prevent the spread of it further.
Well, Zeke, President Trump had previously submitted a $2.5 billion request to Congress to combat the virus. Has the administration appeared open to more funding than it asked for?
In the last couple of days, there have been indications from the White House that they are open to that additional funding. That was also the case when Republicans on Capitol Hill also criticized the administration's request as being too low initially. And that sort of gets at the problems that the White House has had communicating about this virus over the last month or so, where there's been an effort by the administration to try to minimize the threat because they don't want to panic people, or certainly panic the financial markets, but also not taking, but at the same time, by not taking any sweeping actions, they haven't provided the same calming effect and sort of provided and signified to the American people and people around the world that they are also in control of the situation. So this package at this number and the White House's acceptance of that seems to be an indication that they are willing to sort of say, we're giving Congress everything they wanted, and that there should be everything that's needed to solve this crisis.
Well, Natalie, where is this money in the bill coming from?
Well, these emergency type supplementals typically don't have pay-fors, and some Republican senators, such as Rand Paul, are already objecting to that. But these emergency bills, typically Congress doesn't worry about how we're going to pay for it. They say that this is an issue that is urgent, that needs money right now, and they focus on getting that out the door. That prevents some partisan disputes and some partisan feuding that often happens over other spending deals. But certainly, especially conservative Republicans are raising the flag, saying we don't want to be spending this money without having a way to pay for it.
Are you hearing if the bill could meet any opposition by Senate Republicans?
Well, Rand Paul has said that he'll introduce an amendment to try to come up with a way to pay for it, and if that doesn't work, then he may try to delay passage of the bill. But it had overwhelming support in the House, and even if a few Republicans who tend to highlight fiscal conservative issues and who oppose government spending, even if a handful of those Republicans oppose the bill, it still seems ready to have enough support. The Senate will likely take it up tomorrow and pass it.
So then how soon could it reach the president's desk?
By the end of the week. Is what they're aiming for, yeah.
So, Zeke, the president and vice president met with executives from airline companies on Wednesday. How did the White House try to reassure the public that flying is still safe?
Well, we heard from the president and the vice president and from those airline industry executives that their assessment is that domestic travel in particular is still very safe. They would outline some of the procedures the airlines use to disinfect planes, and the airlines committing to step some of that up. But they also highlighted the effective, so far in some cases, the quarantine measures and contact tracing that local and state and federal health officials have done to try to contain this virus, and then reiterated again that they believe that the the risk to the average American is still low. It's part of a two-pronged strategy, both once reassuring the American public about the actual threat, but also reassuring those financial markets that have dropped precipitously. And the president is obviously very mindful of that as he eyes his re-election this fall.
Well, is the president still considering any new travel restrictions?
That does still seem to be on the table. The administration has been coy on that front. They're not being as swift as they were with China, with Italy, or with South Korea, two of the other countries that have seen some of the biggest outbreaks outside of China. They are contemplating further restrictions on regions of travel within those countries, and have already stepped up screening of travelers coming back. It's possible that we see some additional restrictions, but right now it doesn't appear that anything is imminent.
Well, the Trump administration, as you know, faced criticism for delays in testing, and today the president blamed the Obama administration for that and said it's now fixed. Let's listen.
The Obama administration made a decision on testing that turned out to be very detrimental to what we're doing, and we undid that decision a few days ago so that the testing can take place in a much more accurate and rapid fashion. That was a decision we disagreed with. I don't think we would have made it, but for some reason it was made. But we've undone that decision.
So, Zeke, did the president provide any specific details as to how testing will be more rapid and accurate?
We did not get a sense of that. It seems that the president is alluding to the decisions by the FDA and the NHHS to sort of decentralize some of the testing, give states and municipalities more a greater ability to run their own diagnostics to determine whether or not people who may have been exposed to the virus do have this new novel coronavirus. Blaming the Obama administration for that is obviously a political tool more than necessarily a policy reality here. But the administration certainly has faced criticism with how long it took them to sort of decentralize that process and give more authorities to states and local municipalities. So it does, in that sense, make sense why the president is trying to maybe shift some of the blame to his predecessor.
Well, we mentioned, Zeke, that Vice President Mike Pence will travel to Washington State Thursday. What will he be doing there?
Well, the vice president said he's going to be meeting with Governor Jay Inslee, as well as some of the public health leaders out there. He may be bringing some members of Congress with him as they weigh the supplemental as well. That'll both be to sort of learn from what has been going on the ground in Washington State, what the containment efforts, the quarantine efforts, the public health response, but also to reassure the people in the state that the vice president is going to their state even amidst this outbreak as a sign of reassurance to the American public that they are both not forgotten, but also maybe that they can open up their wallets and pocketbooks, and if they're not affected by the virus, that they can go and carry out their normal lives.
All right, Zeke Miller and Natalie Andrews, thank you both very much.